Good, man. How you?
I'm good too.
You
What's
good?
good, brother? I'm all right. I'm pretty good. Let's see if this camera still works or if I broke it. Because I was Dr. Abdul El Sayed in the building, running for Senate in Michigan.
What up, Doe?
And what are you doing here today? I mean, not just on the stream, but you're in Los Angeles. You're in my hood again.
We are. We're trying to raise some money. We
Uh-huh.
got a bit of a fundraiser tonight, and I think our good friend is going to be there. Looking forward to it.
I've never attended a fundraiser dinner
Really?
before. Yeah, I was texting the Pod Johns earlier too to be like, what is this? You know, what's this gonna look like? I've never done that before.
It's
Wait, am I expected to open my wallet too? Is that how
you
this,
don't have to, man. You don't have to.
is that how this goes?
Yo, chat. Tell this man.
Is that why I was invited?
No, it's gonna be a good opportunity. There's actually gonna be a lot of different kinds of people there. You know Mike Murphy? You know who that is? He hosts a podcast called Hasan Tap, and he's from Michigan, like arch conservative his whole life, and now runs a group focused on EVs. And so Mike Murphy said he might show up. So you're gonna have everybody from you to Mike Murphy. So it'll be an interesting conversation.
That's the most arch conservatives, the most right wing it goes.
In that room,
I feel
yeah,
like
probably.
that's gonna be a room that.
I mean, we're not like uber MAGA at this point, but that would be
Yeah.
wild. Stephen Miller walks up, he's like, "Hey, I heard this was an event to support Abdul El Sayed."
Well, for me, I feel like that room, I got ops everywhere. You know what I mean? I'm gonna have ops there because like it's not like a lot of the big ticket dems. They don't really. I mean, they tolerate me because they understand that like I have the best interests of the country in mind. Even if we have disagreements in how we must get there. But I think you know that better than anybody else, being a champion of Medicare for all from the start. Hold on, let me push that in. That's a major point of disagreement that people like ourselves have with a lot of establishment Democrats. But we'll see what happens. I'm excited. I've never experienced something like this before.
It'll be a cultural experience.
You want something to drink?
I'll take. What do you got?
Dr. Pepper, Sunkist, Dr. Pepper Zero.
I'll take Dr. Pepper Zero.
Okay. There you go.
I mean, here's the thing about it, right? I don't take any corporate money, so that allows me to actually have a conversation about what's best for folks. And the problem with sort of the mainstream Democratic Party too often is we want to talk to working people about the challenges that they face, and at the same time, too often Democrats take money from the very same people who are creating the problem in the first place. And so it puts you in a weird position. So you end up saying milquetoast stuff like, I want you to have affordable healthcare. And you'll say, okay, how? And be like, well, I want you to be able to afford your healthcare. You're like, you're just saying the same thing in different words. Like, how do you want to do it? And then they'll say stuff like a public option. You're like, okay, so tell me a little bit about why a public option is actually going to guarantee people healthcare. What's going to say that it's more affordable than what we have right now? Nothing. And you're just trying to create space for the corporate health insurance industry to continue to sustain itself and leech money out of our pockets as we get sick. So
what do you think of in terms of like populist messaging? I feel like a lot of Democrats have shied away from the term populism, or at least like they regard it as like a negative thing. I don't, obviously. I think there's real populism and there's sloppyism. I call right-wing populism sloppyism. There's just not real. It's more so just ridiculous statements about ridiculous tribalist sentiment, right? For the most part, it's a misdirection away from the real material issues that have impact on people's lives. But as far as that populist sentiment goes, I've been thinking about this quite a bit on messaging GDP. Like, I feel like a lot of Americans kind of understand now that like GDP is not the best metric to assess the
it's not about
health of the average person. And I think it's a really good entry point into having a conversation about private healthcare in general as well, because like private healthcare is a unnecessary middleman that is parasitic in nature, that does not actually drive costs down at all. As a matter of fact, in many circumstances, it's incentivized to drive the costs up, and it's beneficial for the GDP though. I mean, it's explosive. It's a there are
a lot of ways
multi-billion-dollar industry.
There are a lot of ways to extract money out of people. And if the only thing you measure is how much money gets extracted in the economy and how much money moves hands, that doesn't necessarily tell you that that's doing it for the well-being of all of us. I would like take an example of this, right? And this may be popular or unpopular for the chat, but let me just say it. Like sports betting. I got a good friend of mine, right? our whole relationship used to be comparing athletes from the 90s. Like we'd like trade Barry Sanders videos, right? Because as a Detroit
we hate
kid,
betting here. This is a halal community. Gambling is haram. We don't participate in that. But go on.
but like you just my guy can't watch ESPN anymore. He's got problematic gambling. So basically, everything about his entire experience growing up is gone for him. Because the minute he turns on ESPN, they're trying to give him some sort of incentive to go spend some money on something he's going to lose money on. And like, look, don't bet, that's okay. But when you start putting it in people's faces and you know as an industry you're making money on people who can't control themselves, that's a problem. Now look, that industry is billions of dollars. It makes a whole lot of money extracting from people who can't make a rational decision about whether or not to make a bet.
Yeah.
And like, you're right. That would benefit the GDP. To your point about populism.
Well, that's why CNN is sponsored by Kalshi now.
Insane. Like, so we're going to bet on all the news items. I mean, here's the problem with
They're doing it already. They're ruining it. Ruined sports, and now they're ruining, I guess, news. But the news has already been ruined. So
I mean, even in Michigan, Eastern Michigan University basketball players just got indicted on point shaving scheme. Right, so now you got these college kids probably don't have that huge NIL deal. It's not like Eastern is a huge basketball school. They're like, all right, I can make some money off the side. Somebody's gonna bet on something and they'll cut me in. I mean, it's just corrupted sports. Now the question is, all right, well, like if you now have a betting circumstance and we know news actually changes political outcomes.
Oh yeah,
there's a huge conflict of interest there.
Yeah, and also you have accounts like Polymarket on Twitter routinely posting like very heavily biased sentiment, and I can't tell if it's directional so that they can like game out the outcomes of certain bets to like juice up the numbers in a specific direction, or if there's like an actual political purpose that it's serving. You know, like it's genuinely terrifying that they're like that. This is what we're doing now. It's just like
how can we monetize everything?
Yeah,
and that's the problem. I mean, like that's the problem. Look, at the end of the day, when you start thinking that there are certain things that are just monetizable, like political outcomes, you don't realize that the whole point of our political system is supposed to be about providing basic dignities for people's lives. At this point, it just becomes another game. And like, this is the hard part of these incentives, right? If all you're measuring is how much money is throughput through the economy, then at some point you start making really problematic decisions like allowing health insurance corporations to leech off the top of our healthcare so that CEOs can make $18 million a year, which, by the way, is the income of the CEO of the largest health insurer in Michigan. Every single one of those dollars came out of somebody's pocket. Now, if you're looking at GDP, you're like, that's great. If you're actually looking at the well-being of people who are downstream of that, that sucks. And unfortunately, here we are.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it becomes increasingly clear for I think more and more Americans every single day that like. Our economy basically is just like a carcass for 90% of the population. And for the top 10% of wealth, we're just like holding on to this like perma-growth mentality. And no matter what the cost of that might be to the quality of life for the average citizens, we don't really care. And we just keep pumping it.
To your point, right? Like you think about where the economy is right now. Just look at the top stocks. The top 7 stocks are all invested in one thing, which is AI.
Yep.
And the implications in local communities are huge. So we just dropped last week a terms of engagement for data centers because there have been 15 data center projects proposed in the last year alone, and all of them are collaborating with our local utilities. DTE is one of them. They are the biggest single spender to corrupt Michigan politics in the entire state. And then they're coming in here trying to okay these projects like through darkness of night without actually following the normal process. And meanwhile, our rates for electricity have gone up faster than 46 other states. I lose my power 2 or 3 times a year for 3 or 4 days at a time. And so like folks are freaking out. They're like, okay, so now you got one project that's going to increase the overall electricity output for all of DTE by more than 100%. And we're supposed to believe that like we're not going to eat last and our rates are not going to go up.
But the economy is entirely reliant, like you said, on AI. So bubble or not, if it pops, everything falls apart because we've stacked all of our bets against that.
And here's the crazy thing. These companies are relying that one of them is going to win. Like the whole logical architecture of this is that they're a race for AGI. There's going to be one winner.
Yeah.
So that means like what happens to the other ones?
Yeah, it's going to, and you know, it's going to be real crazy when we get there and we find out it's Chinese, the winner of the AGI race. Because I feel like this kind of stuff has to be open sourced. And in many respects, it was, and it still kind of is, right? Like, as far as, like, taking all of the information and sucking it into the
Yeah.
AI machine. That part is open source, but then they also farm it out for people to try to make this as cost effective as possible. But it's even then it's actually operating on a loss all the time. Every time you like generate an image, you're actually not only destroying the environment and hiking up people's electricity costs, but you're also eating away at the existing revenue that they've gotten from all the numerous times that they raised money.
So Hasan, I'll tell you the crazy story. I got a letter in the mail over the holiday because one of the books that I had written had been sucked up into Claude to train it. And Anthropic was like, listen, we entered into this huge $1.5 billion settlement for all of the authors whose books had been sucked up. And like, well, would you accept the settlement offer? And it's one of those things where I'm like, well, it must be nice that you just steal everybody's intellectual property and then after the fact to be like, let me just pay you off to shut up. And like, that's one of these companies that has done it. All the rest of them, it's just like, so now here we are. We've got like they're trying to build the machine god. And all of us are supposed to be like, yeah, this is great. And then
a machine god that's sole purpose is to displace the existing labor force, mind you.
And this is the thing about it, right? Like I actually, you know what? I looked at AlphaFold. So folks know I'm a doctor, did a PhD in public health. I grew up learning about protein folding, which is boring as hell, but basically, let me just explain quickly. You have a couple of different kinds of amino acids. They have these different end tails and they can mix in different ways. And the prediction of how they mix used to be really, really hard to do. And that's what causes a protein to fold, is like how they interact with each other. AI was used to help to understand and predict how they would fold. That's a pretty incredible use of that technology. Yeah. The problem with it, though, is that there's not that much money in protein folding. You know where the money is? In trying to figure out how to enable all the Fortune 500 to cut their bottom line when it comes to their labor force by like 5 to 20%. And
this is why publicly funded research is so important, which is ironic that this administration on the one hand is like desperate to try to find the next big thing and be the first to get to AGI if it's even possible to get there, while simultaneously they're chipping away at public funds and research in general, and I feel like they should be investing extra hard in that area, especially in the field of medicine too, like all public research.
I know you were talking about China on the way when I walked in, and one of the most frustrating things to me is that they are eating our lunch when it comes to the future of tech, and that's because they're investing
in renewable energy,
like all of the important technologies of the future. So I'll tell you a story. 2 years ago, I was speaking at a conference in Kenya, and I love coffee. So whenever I go to a coffee producing nation, I go to coffee farms. So I'm on my way to a coffee farm. I'm driving in a BYD on a Chinese paved road, driving by Chinese built row houses in which the farmers live. And I'm looking at the driver. I'm like, yo, and I already know the answer to this. I'm like, who built all this? He was like, China. And I was like, all right, so what do you think about the US? And he looks me in the rear view and I see his eyes and he's like, I don't think about the US. And that's the thing, is that like we used to be the country that did those things. And like, my parents immigrated to this place. They took a bet on an America where they had rights and where this was the best single place. My parents are automotive engineers, right? Like, or my dad's an automotive engineer and my stepmom's an automotive engineer. But like my dad took a bet that like this was the best place to build cars. And for most of his life, that has been true. And I worry that we're giving up on that, right? I still believe in American auto workers. I still believe in American engineers. It just seems like Donald Trump and all of them don't, right? Because I think when you look at where the competition for the automotive industry is, we've got to be able to be thinking about all the different kinds of cars we can make and being able to compete on the international market. And frankly, what they've basically said is like, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore. And I'm like, all right, so I'm from Michigan where we make cars. So you're basically telling me that we're not going to compete on the international market because we've already given up on a competition with China, right? Because we don't want to invest in research and development with them.
Have you heard Jim Farley state that his daily is the VY or no, it's the U9 or something?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, like
he straight up said, I went to China, I saw the EVs, and I was like, if they come here, the SU7, he's like, if they come here, that's my daily now. If they come here, we're cooked. It's crazy. I
believe that we can, like, our ingenuity is better. Our engineers are better for now. But like, I think about my dad, man. I'd like, imagine it's not 1978 and it's 2026 and you got a kid who's like the brightest in his class is in Egypt and he's looking at what's happening in the United States and thinking, huh.
He can't even come here. We're denying immigrant visas. Yeah. It's like, oh, you want to come here? You want to come here and work? You can't work if you've ever said anything mean about JD Vance. You can't even get a visa. And at the point of entry, we're going to harass you. And we keep repeating over and over again that, like, oh, your time here is limited. You're not a part of us. You're not a part of this country at all. You're completely cooked. So why the fuck would they come here? I guess like the only reason why people come here is because like we dominate the rest of the planet and we crush them into submission. So it's better to at least like not be under the boot. I mean, so that's the only reason.
But like I know what my life would have been if my parents didn't come here. Right? I know what it would have been. I also know what it has not been for a bunch of kids who grew up 15 minutes away from me, didn't get the same privileges I did. I love America. I love America enough to want her to be better. And if you want a place to be better, you got to be willing to call out what we're not doing right. It's like you watch your kid sticking something into a socket and you're like, no, I'm not going to say anything. Like if you love your kid, you tell them to stop. Yeah. And I just think we have to have an honest conversation about what it means to have some tough love about the challenges that we face right now. And
yeah, but what if your kid's a little... What if your kid's a little slow? Because America is the slow kid that goes, oh, you don't want me to put the fork in the socket? I'm gonna lick the socket now. I'm gonna stick my tongue in it.
I'll tell you about kids. Even the smartest kids take a minute to have to figure it out. And like at the end of the day, like we have a moment right now where I think people are seeing just how insane a lot of this is. I mean, take we were talking about immigration and the value that it is offered for this country. We did this thing in America where we were the place where all of the best and brightest from all over the rest of the world decided to come, right? And here's the thing that frustrates me the most is that a lot of folks who look at that and say, well, what's there for me, whose families have been here for generations and generations, part of me says, the very people who are now telling you that you should hate immigrants are the people who undercut your entire possibility of getting a high quality education. They disinvested in your schools, they disinvested in your healthcare, they disinvested in your communities, and then they basically kept saying, well, as long as we're able to import the best and brightest everywhere else, the top of our economy will be doing just fine. And part of me is just like, these people have been lying to you for a very long time. We should have been invested in your schools. We should have been invested in your communities. We should have empowered you to be able to compete with the best and brightest everywhere. But like those people lied to you. And now they want you to hate the very immigrants, right? That they have disempowered you to be able to actually be able to compete in the best way. And so like, to me, it's about going back out there and being able to say, look, we're going to reinvest in public schools, urban, rural communities, and make sure that our best and brightest, that all of our kids, right, have the best means to an education in the future to be able to compete with anyone, anywhere. And that used to be the case in the United States. And I think we lost that back in the 80s. Ronald Reagan, y'all.
I had a conversation about this with a very unexpected person on my flight back to Los Angeles, Neil deGrasse Tyson. But he was talking about how like America has never been motivated by anything but, profit. And the only times where they've actually gotten their shit in order was during the space race. They had to compete with the USSR. And that's the only time where there was like tremendous investment into public research in this field because they couldn't let, because Yuri Gagarin, USSR is the first to beat America in the space race. So we had to one up them. And
Sputnik and then the ability to orbit the Earth.
Yeah. So then inevitably we land on the moon, except according to my rocket scientist brother, we might have lost the recipes on how to get up there, or at least it's like far too costly to get up there anyway. But in any case, my point is I feel like we're not even doing that with China at this stage. Like we're taking a different attitude, taking a different approach where we look to the tremendous amount of money spent on R&D on the renewable energy side. And we've completely said, all right, you know what? You guys dominated that. You own the manufacturing and the procurement and the refinement of all rare earth minerals around the planet. They're not so rare, but they're obviously very costly to efficiently produce, right? So they own all of it. They own all the battery technology and everything like that. They own all the solar panels. So we're just going to flip the table. We're going to double down on our efforts and control every oil-rich nation we possibly can. And it's crazy because, like, we're stunting our own growth because instead of trying to compete with China, taking advantage of the unimaginable wealth that we have, educating our population, fixing our infrastructure, we're just engaging in more military adventurism overseas and trying to destabilize countries when we know that inevitably, we know that eventually fossil fuels is finite and will become obsolete.
And not only that, we're cooking ourselves in the process.
Yeah, and it's also destroying the planet.
It's a crazy thing because China is the first country that figured out how to export infrastructure. That's what it is. But look, we have a whole industry to make infrastructure. We built all the infrastructure we could possibly need in our own country. So we're just going to go to sub-Saharan Africa, where, by the way, 30% of the world's under 40s live, and just build all their infrastructure and then sell it to them on these long-term loans that basically empower us over their government. And then we're going to build the future of renewable energies and sell that to them too. And then we're sitting here literally, this is the thing about Donald Trump.
Better loans than we offer. Better loans than all the conditional loans that the IMF and the World Bank have offered historically.
But we're out here retrenching on ourselves, disinvesting in the future of tech that people are focused on and interested in, that's more efficient over the long term. And then not only that, but Donald Trump, I don't know if you just saw this announcement. He's no, Chinese autos can come and build here as long as they employ American workers. I'm so you're basically giving up on the American auto industry, which is insane.
Wait, there's no way that he would allow that to happen.
That's what he's floating.
He was just hanging out with Jim Farley. What the fuck?
You know what happened, man, is that Ford auto worker, that hero.
Yeah, the one that said you're a pedo protector.
Pissed them off. And now he's okay, watch. This is the thing about it, right?
That's crazy.
Yeah, but that's what they're floating right now. That's the conversation. That and everyone gets a high deductible health plan.
And he's not going to hold them to account to make sure that those factories are unionized too.
Definitely not.
Yeah, he doesn't give a fuck about that.
He's going to try and use this opportunity to break unions. Right? Because let's be clear, the union movement is one of it is one of the first enemies of any sort of fascist state. Yeah. Right? They go after unions because unions are an independent source of organizing and can make real demands on both the state and on corporations. And the union movement is one of the most important things standing between us and where Donald Trump wants us to go.
Let China come in. Trump reiterated his openness to Chinese auto investment in the U.S. while speaking recently in Detroit. Early on the campaign trail of Trump, he just wants to be
Detroit.
Obama.
He said it in Detroit.
He wants to be Obama so bad. This is like when Obama when Obama built a Chinese factory that closed down later. You know what I'm talking about? And then he made the documentary Factory.
And this is the other thing, right? It's so we're in this international race around AI, but he's yeah, you can just buy the chips because we're gonna make money off of it. But it's the short termism is insane. It's just insane.
Well, shutting China off from even purchasing those chips initially caused China to go and develop it on their own. And now they've actually made tremendous breakthroughs in what is it called? Not the chips itself, but the manufacturing of chips, the thing that you need, the technology that we wouldn't allow, the EUV lithography, the technology that we would not allow to export from the Netherlands to China, they basically went around and designed it on their own. So now, they're probably 5 years to 10 years out from mass producing all that stuff. They've already started engineering their own NVIDIA style GPUs. They're going to flood the market, and it's going to be good for the American consumer, but it will be terrible for the American stock market. I'm a citizen of the world. I don't think about this in terms of warring nations or foreign adversaries. I think that's a very dangerous idea that a lot of Americans maintain. You're running for Senate, so you don't have to say anything about this. I understand.
Let me just say something. Look, I think we do our best when we are leading on building things that are productive, that create opportunity for folks in this country and abroad. And I don't think it's a zero-sum competition. Either we win or they win. I think we can all win. One of the frustrations I do have with China is that they've often broken the rules, right? They very much enforce their own patent law. And then when it comes to our patents,
you're talking to the most anti-copyright guy on the planet, for the record.
But if you agree to play by certain rules, you play by the rules, right? And that to me is I disagree. The other thing I'll just say that is this, I think for us, if we're serious about using the rise of a China to build for ourselves, we've got to be really thoughtful about asking, where is this puck going?
You're running for Senate on high-speed rail, is what you're saying now. It's not just Medicare for all. We're bringing miles and miles of high speed rail, baby. U.S. Steel.
I'll be honest with you. Like, I'm actually really interested to see like what is the future of like what a car is. You know what I mean? Like that is a big open question. That
Well,
I
I guess
actually
you
think
can't really. I've just realized you're running in Michigan. You
No. I'm like, look, I'm all for high speed rail. Don't get me wrong. I don't think these things are mutually exclusive. But like, there is a big open question about like what I mean. So you think about this, right? What makes a train a train? It runs you have a bunch of cars hooked together. It runs on a very predictable path, right? It goes between different places. But like, you think about what happens now as more of automotive becomes self-driving. So like, what is I mean, at some point you're talking about convergence around some of these things. Like, even think about it. Like, you own a car, right? I own a car. My car sits fallow for like most of the day, and it's there for me when I need it. I take it where I need to go. But like, in some respects, if your car can drive itself and you can order a car on demand, like ask yourself what the difference between having your own car, having an Uber on demand is, and then having public transit.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that like there is this convergence in like where the future of transit is headed that I actually think breaks the sort of divide of like car, no car, like light rail, public transit. What happens?
But we don't have any. But we don't have any public transit options in general. That's the
I
problem.
agree, and I think it's a big part of. I mean, it's a huge issue.
It's ironic because, like, on the one hand, if you're a Ford automotive worker, right? If you're working at a factory and you got a good union job, your job kind of relies on making sure that Americans use cars and not public transit. Because if there's more diversity of option, then less people purchase cars, and then you're making less cars. But also at the same time, every single worker would probably benefit from having more robust public transit so that they could take advantage of that instead of getting a car. So it would make their lives much better. Beyond that, though, there's also, I think, a cultural importance in this too. Because like, I think the reason why cities are blue rather than like rural areas that end up turning red is because you're constantly around a diversity of different opinions. You're constantly around a diverse group of individuals, diversity in age, diversity in thought, and it causes you to be more understanding and more empathetic, and it causes you to have a sense of like shared culture, and that's why everybody goes like, "Oh, New York is the best," New York #1. Even though ironically I'm wearing a Yankees hat.
Detroit #1, but yeah, sure.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen on accident. That happens because people are constantly around one another, and like they're forced to interact with one another, be around other people.
And I think that's a beautiful thing, and I think any urban community is going to have that. I'm just thinking about this, right? Like, if you think about a lot of the things that people want, they want just-in-time transit, they want specific like last-mile solutions, and like you could imagine a world where you had a sort of like public version of Uber, right? That was entirely an EV-based system, right? So it was it was like really quite clean, right? And that it literally solves the last mile problem for you. So it's not just the kind of thing like it runs particular routes and then you have to figure out the last mile. I'm just saying that like the future of where public transit could go in an era where you can have a clean car that drives itself. I'm just saying that like we have this divide that we've created in our minds about like there's public transit and then there's cars. And I'm just saying that like as cars become both more efficient from like a driver standpoint and also more efficient from a renewable energy standpoint, you could imagine a world in which you actually say, look, a public community could operate, right, an Uber system where you do have some shared routes, but like it'll come pick you up, take you where you need to go, and do so at scale relatively cheaply. So
also, like I got back from China recently. I went to China and I saw it's the most American country on the planet. It's so funny to say this because people are like, "What the fuck do you mean?" But like they are very, like there is definitely a shared culture there. Like their cultural attitudes are quite similar. And one of the things I noticed is that there is robust infrastructure and a lot of public transit, but everybody has a fucking car too. So there's both.
Yeah.
Like you can have both. It's not zero sum. You can have a car that you use on the weekends if you want to, but then also take advantage of, the public transit system that exists. So
and look, I'm actually, to be honest with you, the value of having public transit is huge. One of the great harms that was done in the city of Detroit was actually it used to have a trolley system, and then they undid the trolley system because they built the highways right into the city and tore up that trolley system.
Same in Los Angeles.
Same in Los Angeles. Same in a number of urban communities.
That was the car companies.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. I mean, so I'm just saying that like I actually think that we this is a debate that ought to be had. I do think that in a lot of ways, right, thinking about how people live and where people live, a public transit system is a great solution in urban communities. You think about rural communities, it's going to look a little bit different. I actually think the excitement of this is that you can start thinking about what public transportation looks like in a rural community in an era where you now have this more efficient kind of car, right? So I'm just saying that like...
And the best part about public transit is that it is the only effective way to reduce traffic density, which is so crazy because everybody goes, nah, we'll just put one more lane on the highway.
And it never works.
Of course it doesn't work because it gets bottlenecked when you enter the city. So that's not, when it gets, you're inevitably going to have to do one lane unless... The new idea is that they just like chop down the building blocks in the city and make the city roads eight lanes long as well.
I mean, that's the other thing is that like, I think this is the hard part. When we think about manufacturing, which Michigan, of course, is a huge manufacturing state, we always think about it with respect to legacy projects that we're manufacturing. We're not thinking about like, what is the next thing that we have to manufacture? And this is the hard part. This is like,
make Ford make train cars.
I mean, like, like in the middle of COVID, Ford started to make masks.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm just saying that like in Michigan, we make stuff, and what we make, I think we need to always be thinking about what's the next thing that needs to be made. Right. And we'll always make cars in Michigan, but like, what is the next set of things that we need to make? And
kind of feels like the only time where American prosperity was at its peak was when we had what resembles a centrally planned economy during the wartime. And that was that, like, we ate good off of that, even after the period of World War II ended.
Yeah, the hard part about that is, by implication, it was like during wartime. So I hope we.
Well, no, I know. That's the wrong lesson. Yeah. You can maintain a similar attitude.
I mean, to be fair, right? Like,
and
unfortunately,
not have the economy directed at making a handful of select billionaires super wealthy, and instead focus on improving. Focus on. I don't know, maybe developing like a 5-year project or a 4-year project if that's the same election cycle that we have, the same term structure that we have, and then design a 4-year project, make both of those 4-year projects compete against one another in the elections, and then have that be the initiative for the upcoming 4 years rather than thinking in quarters.
So that's the hard part, right? It's like we have stopped investing in the technologies of the future. And the whole point of institutions like the NSF and the NIH was that you were invested in giving out grants to folks who had great ideas about building the future. We stopped doing that, right? And once you stop doing that, at some point, you are failing to sort of recognize where things are headed and you're retrenching backwards. And that's not like, it doesn't have to be central planning. It's just like, this is where we think this is going. Why don't we invest in this new tech so our industry can also benefit and also grow? And we're just not doing that anymore. And like under Trump, this is the thing about Donald Trump, is that he's always interested in a win tomorrow. He's never really interested in a win in 10 years.
In a way, he's like perfect for American capital for that reason. And we're kind of seeing that.
You're right.
We're kind of seeing that too, like even with Jerome Powell, right? Like Donald Trump is basically touching all the third rails, right? Like in the past, if someone were to say, we're going to take the Federal Reserve and we're going to control it. Like I want you to do this thing. I want you to lower interest rates. It doesn't matter what kind of system you have in place that is like supposed to be totally removed. Obviously, there is an economic ideology driving the Fed as well. I'm not silly. I'm not stupid. And it's not one that favors the working class in general. But even in terms of like dominating the interest of capital, like that was what created stability. You always know like monetary policy is going to pick up the slack because let's be real, there's no fiscal policy coming because that's happening at the legislative level, and Congress is only good, unfortunately, until you get elected, only good for cutting taxes. But
we should be taxing billionaires. Let's just put that out there.
Yeah.
Hang that over.
Well, you're in the no longer do we want to tax billionaire state right now. Gavin Newsom has some interesting things to say about that.
What did he say?
Apparently, he said he wanted to stop the initiative to tax billionaires. As a matter of fact, does anyone have the link for that?
He's trying to run for president.
No, but that's the opposite of what you should be doing. If you want to run for president, you have to be like, hell yeah, I want to fucking tax billionaires.
Here's the funny thing about folks when they run for office, right? Like you surround yourself by a lot of times by a bunch of folks who want what's best for you, but will tell you what you cannot do. And then for somebody like him, he's thinking, all right, well, how am I going to raise money and how can I appear to be quote unquote more mainstream? And part of me says that like at some point, the whole point of running for office is not to get elected. The point of running for office is to do something if you get elected. That's the fucking point.
Yeah.
So,
and you know what's beautiful about that? When you actually have ideas that will help people's lives, you have a higher likelihood of winning office. Like you have a higher likelihood of winning the race.
this is the thing that Democrats don't realize. Like, are you clocking this whole debate about abolish ICE?
Yeah.
I mean, so, I was out there 2018, right? And because anybody with the brain could have seen where this was all headed. If Donald Trump were to take office again, he was going to weaponize ICE against the idea of immigration and the Constitution itself. And this is exactly what he's done. And the notion that ICE like shot somebody in the face, that is unfortunately almost inevitable outcome of where ICE was headed back in 2018. But now a bunch of Democrats, right, get anxiety about the idea that, oh my God, they're going to weaponize this against us. But you learn the long lesson from Trump. Trump didn't walk out there being like, oh, what is the idea that I can say that is going to be the least dangerous? This guy went out there and said all kinds of crazy shit, but what he was able to do was pick a fight and force people to take sides. And the problem with Democrats is we actually tell the truth. This dude is lying and picking fights to polarize folks. We actually can tell the truth. You deserve to have healthcare in your country. We should be taxing billionaires in an era where we're spitting out more billionaires faster than people can actually figure out how to afford their damn groceries. So yeah, run on the shit that is obvious. But, you know, I'm sure he's got a good set of consultants that are telling him that that's a little bit too far from the mainstream. People feel worried.
But it's not.
He's running against prosperity. Ridiculous.
So that's the problem. The delicate tightrope that you must operate when you're running for president or when you're running as like an establishment Democrat is one that still favors the donors and doesn't disrupt them too much. And what I always find to be frustrating here is that they always happen to tell people what they can't have when it's the working class. Yeah, they have no issue telling the working class, you can't have this thing, okay? Why can't you have this thing? Well, the real reason is because our donors won't be able to turn profits the same way.
But they will. This is the funny thing. But you tax a billionaire 8%. How much does a billionaire's money make every year? About 10%?
Yeah, it's just...
So you tax a billionaire 8%. They're still going to be richer next year than they were this year.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. It's unlimited greed. But yeah, even on the abolish ICE concept, like there were plenty of people that were saying this, and it was a popular position from 2017 to 2019. And yeah, exactly. Here's austerity. Steph says, abolish ICE was a thing for 3 years, 2017 to 2019. And in those cycles, Dems ran the table in specials, won a blue wave midterm, and set up a presidential cycle where they won a narrow trifecta. But it doesn't matter. Like we have amnesia. We're still having the same debate. It's like, oh, should we say abolish ICE? I don't know. Maybe that's too much. It's like the Department of Homeland Security is a new agency. It did not exist until 2003, okay? Of course, you can still have Border Patrol. Of course, you can still have Customs. Of course, you can still have an agency tasked with dealing with immigration. But the reason why the Department of Homeland Security was created was so that you can have all of those things smashed into one agency that was unaccountable and a formative part of the surveillance state. And the way that they packaged it was Muslims are coming from the Mexican border and we have to stop them because they want to do a 9/11 every weekend in Naperville. Like,
and this is the crazy thing.
It's ridiculous.
Is that like you look at we've lost the plot. Like, tell me what shooting a woman in the face in Minnesota has to do with security in the southern border. Like, wrong border, right?
Yeah.
And the crazy thing about this is you talk to anybody in law enforcement, like folks who actually train in law enforcement, not these like thugs who cosplay something they saw in Grand Theft Auto and somebody gives them a gun after like 6 weeks of training. When you talk to anybody in actual law enforcement, they look at this and they hang their head in shame because this is not actually law enforcement. What this is weaponization of the idea of immigration against the Constitution to normalize the idea that the president should have a paramilitary force that's answerable only to him, and that kind of violence in public against anybody who stands up to it is a normal thing in this country. And that has never been a normal thing in this country. It never should have been a normal thing in this country. The Constitution is built specifically to protect us from that. And here we are.
Like, there's already issues with existing law enforcement, right? Like, there's already problems there. There's like a need for reform there. But like theoretically, in theory, there's a purpose for law enforcement. like I'm not, as far left as I am. I've never been like we have to, there's no need for cops kind of person. Like you need detectives, you need people that are going to be, democratically organized in some capacity to enforce the established laws that we have. If you go back to its roots, if you go back to the theory behind it, they're supposed to protect and serve the community. And there are many instances where they don't do that. And that, that's a whole different conversation. There is no service for ICE. There is no theoretical good reason for ICE to exist. And because there is no theoretical good reason for ICE to exist, we've had to make one up by consistently lying about how migrants are actually constituting an ever-present danger inside of our national boundaries because they're doing crimes. And this was one of my major problems with the Democrats in the election cycle, where I kept saying over and over again, you have to counter message against this stuff because they are lying. They're just straight up lying about why there must be a necessity for ICE. Because why is there a necessity for ICE? Because immigrants are doing crimes. It's not even true.
And this is the thing, is like, well, if immigrants are doing crimes, if anybody's doing crimes, well, then there's a system that's supposed to take care of that.
Good thing we have law enforcement.
There's a system that's supposed to take care of that. So why is it different when an immigrant does a crime versus anybody else does a crime? And look, you can secure the southern border, and we should secure the southern. We should secure the borders, fine. But if you're serious about like immigration, then why haven't we built out all of the legal infrastructure that should be processing folks to give them a pathway to citizenship? And if you're serious about keeping people safe, then having a bunch of dudes with guns who are untrained that can cover their face, walking into your community and shooting people in the face ain't it. And
no one is crossing the border illegally if they have the opportunity to go through the legal mechanism. Like, why would anybody go, oh, I can't wait to crawl under a tunnel or pay $10,000 to like a cartel guy to ship me and my family over the border and like do this treacherous trek in order to get into the United States of America? The only reason why this black market exists is because we deliberately have not made the processing easier. This is something I explain to people all the time. The difference between an undocumented migrant and a documented migrant or a natural-born U.S. citizen is paperwork. Yeah. That's it. It's just paperwork. It's a paperwork problem, and that's why for the longest time as the INS existed in American history, a lot longer than the ICE has ever existed, it was just a paperwork crime. And that's still what it is in the books, too. It's not even still, no matter how much they petition and try to change the rules, crossing the border or overstaying your visa is... At least for the first one, it's a civil offense. It's not a criminal offense. It's only a felony if you get caught and then you're deported and then you come back. And even that's a relatively new concept.
Let's talk about what this is. This is about trying to create a legal means to say that only some people who look like J.D. Vance or Donald Trump should be welcomed into this country. I mean, and if you don't believe me, take a look at the whole the abolition of the refugee system, unless you are a white South African. Right?
Yeah, those guys, the white genocide is so real. It's the most real thing.
And that's really the thing about it. This is about trying to normalize in America where there are some people who can be citizens and other people who are just not. And if you are, right, of those people, both you and I, right, then you should be okay with being second class, right? And I just am not. Like, I think that's wrong. And I think the ideals of this country are wrong. And that's exactly why J.D. Vance is out here giving I mean, this must be weird in his house,
in his private affairs,
but giving speeches about how America is about blood and soil, and that there are some people who belong in this place more than others. And I actually agree with him. The people who belong in this place more than others are Native Americans. Everybody else, right?
Well, we kind of came over and took their shit,
unless you're black, in which case you were forced over. Right. Yeah. So
but this is a good point too. Look, like the fact that they're also apprehending natives right now. I've said it before and I'll say it again. This is Rebecca Nangle. Native people being detained by ICE proves the raids are not about immigration status but skin color. Since the Trump administration sent 2,000 ICE officers to Minneapolis, at least 5 Native people have been detained, and an unknown number have been stopped and questioned. And I think there's like 5 Native people in Minneapolis that they can't even account for right now. That they don't even know where these people are, and it's like. It's the most ridiculous thing to go to Minneapolis and apprehend Native Americans. Like, that's
I mean, it's such a slap in the face. And here's the other thing. ICE's budget, $185 billion. $185 billion is more than the budget of the FBI, more than the budget of the Marines. And that's all money that could have been spent to make sure you had healthcare. You know how much it would cost to abolish all the medical debt in this country? Probably about $25 billion.
Yeah.
Frankly, some estimates, you probably could do it for like $3 billion, depending upon the negotiation you had with the hospitals. So for as much as literally some small proportion of our ICE budget, we could eliminate all the medical debt in this country and ask yourself, what would be better for us? Rather than like giving a bunch of dudes who literally were in their mom's basement up until 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, but it's a military, it is a state jobs program for fascists. That's what it is. That's what ICE is. The reality of the matter is there's a historical example for this. Initially, the brown shirts and the black shirts started off as street thugs, right? Like they were organizing on the basis of ideology, but for the most part, they were just like gangs. And then once fascists took power, they turned it into a job that the state gave money for. Like it's just it became a jobs program.
Think about Proud Boys.
Yeah.
How many Proud Boys do you think joined ICE?
Oh, all of them.
I mean, I'm just saying that.
Enrique Tarrio, they actually released evidence that they released the names of every single person that was working for the Department of Homeland Security, and someone was saying that like Enrique Tarrio, who was the former leader of the Proud Boys, is literally an ICE agent now. They're all doing ICE now.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's why you don't see them protesting in the streets. I noticed once Trump came in with the ICE jobs program, I noticed a lot less Patriot Prayer style marches taking place. Is that disinformation? I don't know. Maybe he got paid because he's a. Yeah, this is. Oh yeah, did you see how they hire the hiring process too? Laura Jadid did a piece for Slate where she literally got hired without even signing or submitting any paperwork, and is easily Googleable. Has talked shit about Donald Trump and whatever. And they straight up hired her. That's it. That's all it takes is for you to have the intensity and the need and the interest, and then you're good. You're hired.
Here's the question though: is like, where does this all go? I mean, this is the thing: is like we're first couple weeks of year 2. Where does this all go?
5 more days until Trump's first year of his second term.
Yeah, it's not even year 2. It's still year 1.
Yeah.
Damn.
5 more days.
I was sitting in my office before I ever decided to run for Senate. I was sitting in my office the day that they froze federal funds. It was the same day that our current U.S. Senator decided to retire. And that was the day I was like, all right, maybe this is where we need to go here. But like, that feels like 10 years ago, man. It wasn't even a year ago. And we all looked at it and we're like, damn, this is awful. This is the worst that could happen.
Yeah. It's, I don't know where this goes, but it's nowhere good. I'll tell you that.
And the thing is, you could have seen it a long time ago.
Yeah, I've been yelling about this stuff for years. I was yelling under the Biden administration when the first big news hit was Biden's Customs and Border Patrol whipping Haitian refugees with their reins on the border of Texas. And as soon as that news story came out, Biden dropped the whole first 100 days of immigration and basically decided, we're going to hope that if we don't talk about this, everybody forgets about it. On the one hand, there were obviously immigrant advocacy groups that were constantly yelling at them, right? And they wanted to, they didn't want to do something super reactionary and have them get really mad. But on the other hand, they thought, oh, this problem will go away. And then Greg Abbott comes in, Ron DeSantis comes in and turns undocumented migrants and asylum seekers who are technically legally on U.S. soil seeking asylum and turned them into political pawns and started shipping them to Long Island and stuff. At that point, I said Biden has to crack the whip and, prosecute these governors. You think Trump would allow something like that to happen right now? No.
I mean, a lot of this can be explained by just a weakness on the part of decent people to do the thing that needs to be done. And, and then a failure to actually stand up to obvious things. I mean, so much of the frustrations of the last president are either he was weak or he got played, right? Or he was just bought into the worst shit in the first place. I mean, I can't really explain the genocide, so.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he was too old. Like, there are so many... Look.
But Democrats are doing the same shit.
The government is very powerful, right? The government is endlessly powerful. So, of course, even the worst government will end up... will have, like, brilliant people, kind-hearted people working for them, people working in the public sector. And those guys are still pushing the needle to the best of their ability. And one of those programs was safe needle injection sites and mass distribution of Narcan. And for the first time ever in U.S. history,
100 Narcan vending machines, man.
The first time ever in U.S. history since the opioid epidemic started, we, for the first year in 2024, under Biden's leadership, experienced a decline in overdose deaths. And I did not hear one fucking Democrat take credit for that. And you know what's even crazier? Now Republicans are taking credit for it.
And now that they're actually cutting all the programs.
Now, while they're cutting the fucking programs, I was one of the few places. It was me, Democracy Now!, Sam Cedar, Majority Report, and like maybe a handful of different places that was like, this is one of the good things that Biden did. Same with the Afghan withdrawal. Sure, there were issues or whatever, but like ultimately it was a brave thing to do. Like the entirety of the media barely offered it a blip, but I think the problem still was Brandon. It was Joe Brandon. It was Joe Biden. He was too old to come out and celebrate this profound accomplishment.
But it's also the culture of Democrats. Like Democrats don't fight. You know what I mean? This is the funny thing, right? Like, so I'm locked in this primary. Everyone's like, we need a fighter. I'm like, have you ever fought? Do you know what a fight is? Fights are ugly things.
Yeah.
They're not predictable. They don't look nice on TV. They're like blood and teeth. And the problem with Democrats is that we don't actually have a righteously mean bone in our body. And that's part of the problem. Is part of me is just like, listen, man, I'm gonna be the nicest guy. If you come at me, I'm gonna enjoy this conversation, if not more. And the problem with Democrats is that we don't have that, and we actually kind of look down on that. And then the problem is the rest of the country kind of looks at that and says like, he's gonna say that about you when you're gonna do nothing, and so we lose respect.
Yes. And you look hypocritical when you are known for taking a position, even if your heart is not in it, like, defending queer people, right? Like everybody knows that the Democrats are supposed to be woke. Like they're supposed to be the ones who defend immigrants and defend queer people and, defend a woman's right to choose, things like that. So when you are publicly having a conversation where you back away publicly from that position, as the party did in the last election cycle on the issue of immigration, or even after the electoral defeat, talking about, how we should have just like cut off trans people already. It's like, cut off trans people? You never even fought for trans people to begin with. And
it's also the ability to just say, hey, listen, we're going to show up here and fight for rights.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a such thing as a righteous fight. And I think sometimes like we don't really realize that. And the minute we get punched, we feel bad about it. And then we walk away.
In a country that is also more woke than they are reactionary, we are literally, for no reason whatsoever, out of pure fear, just completely dropping certain aspects of the policy-making side and handing the conversation off to the Republicans so they can dominate the field with whatever lie they want to tell.
They say crazy shit. They move the Overton window, and then we get dragged over there, and then we don't actually push back. It's like, I mean, you see in the way that politics get done, right? You have consultants who do these polls, and then you look at the polls, and everyone's like, well, this is where the public is, so we're just going to say that. And you're like, no, the job is not to say what is already popular. It is to make popular what is right.
Yes.
So the question for you is, what are you going to drive people? What are you going to force people into having a conversation about?
And there are key policies that the base is already on board with that you could put at the forefront of your campaigning.
Like Medicare for all.
Like, exactly. Medicare for all. Or like anything that is about like truly reining back Israel. Like anything.
If you literally say, hey, listen, instead of sending $22 billion abroad to drop other bombs on other people's kids in their hospitals, I would like to spend that $22 billion to make sure that I can rebuild your hospital. What do you think? Most everybody's like
99% is going to say yes. And the 1% is Randy Fine. He's going to say, no, I want to bomb the hospital, please. But you can sell him on other stuff. You can be like, here, I'll give you a Big Mac or something. And he'll be on board with it. But like,
also fuck that guy.
Yeah, I know. He's so fucking. I mean, he is literally no different than Nick Fuentes. It blows my mind that like, he gets to operate in polite society, and he's basically Nick Fuentes, but with a role reversal on one issue, I guess.
Truly, deeply racist, like in his soul.
So
every
awful.
time I hear him talk, I'm like, how are you going to say that about it? How is anybody going to let you say that?
How can you say that
anybody?
about anyone?
Anyone.
Like, you can't, it's crazy.
Anyway, brother, I got to roll, man.
Oh, yeah.
I got to
And I'll see you in a little bit.
Hey, I'll see you in a bit.
All right.
We're going to have him in his first political fundraiser.
I know. Don't tell him that. They're going to say I'm an insider now.
He's going to be the most outside. We're going to keep him outside the house, all right?
Yeah. I'll be looking in through the window.
And friends, listen, Abdul El Sayed or AbdulForSenate.com. I hope folks will get involved. Follow us on socials. Hasan, appreciate you, man. Thank you. Hey, let us know when you're back in Michigan.
A little bit.
We'll get some more Dearborn Meat Market.
Hell yeah.
All right, friends.
All right. Abdul El Sayed. Dr. Abdul El Sayed in the building, everybody. Stopping by. I'll be voting for you from Livonia. Yeah, you got one. Yeah, you got a Livonia voter. I would vote if I was in his state. Yeah, I mean, it's just that's why we say, oh, Zoran, that's my mayor. You can now say, Abdul, that's my senator, even if you're not from Michigan.